Welcome to the Drop In with Pindi podcast from Warriors TMA Academy, a podcast for everyone from business inspirational leaders, combat sports enthusiasts, martial artists, and fitness fans. Together, we can build our self-discipline, confidence, and positive mindsets through great leaders. Now, here's your host, coach and former pro fighter, Pindi Matahar.
Welcome, ladies and gents. Here I am, Pindi Matahar, here for the podcast number 1. I'm truly honored to be here with my Professor Victor Estima. It's an honor to have him here for our first podcast, ladies and gents. Apologies that I've not done my hair, as you can tell. We've just had a great workout, so if Professor Salvo, you're watching, please don't have a go at me. We were on the phone earlier today, and he was just like, man, you got to get your hair sorted. So Professor Salvo, I promise you I'll get that sorted for you, okay? But back here with the podcast, ladies and gents. I'm here with my Professor Victor. It's an honor to have him for the very first one. And it's an inspirational story that I'd like Professor to share with all of you here, because for me, Professor's been a massive influence on the mats, but more so off the mats. And when you hear the stories that Professor's been through here in the UK, and you'll understand why. And I'm looking forward for you guys to hear his story. So Professor, welcome.
Thank you, Pindi, for the opportunity for being the first. So I feel honored. We have a long journey together.
Absolutely.
We've seen each other since my beginning of the journey here in the UK.
Absolutely.
We were just like a young man. Yeah. Now we're still young people. We're
still young,
absolutely.
But minus the grades.
I think we're still teens at that time, right?
Yes.
Teenager, like late teenager, 18 years old when we got to meet each other.
Absolutely.
And we have lived a very interesting journey, martial arts, right?
Yeah.
Slightly different directions.
Yep.
Yeah, but at the same time, connecting together through everything that we did.
Absolutely.
That's pretty
Absolutely.
awesome.
So for those of you that don't know, I started my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu journey over at Gracie Barra, Birmingham, when Professor's older brother, Brazilian Estima, opened up his academy in Acox Green, which was back then still is the Stevie B's gym, but they had the downstairs, and that was way back in 2006. So for me, that was my first class, believe it or not, was a no-gi Brazilian Jiu Jitsu class on a Saturday midday, and it was with both Professor Victor and Brazilian Estima. So we've known each other since then, basically, and it's been an amazing journey. But Professor, if you could share your journey in the sense of like how it all began for you, what made you fall in love with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, come over, start Brazilian Jiu Jitsu back in Brazil, but then come over to the UK, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with everyone.
For sure. Number one reason why I started training Jiu Jitsu, it was not anything particular like magical or anything inspirational. It was simply the idea that I was a teenager who loved music, and I've been, during childhood, very active, always involved with sports, did judo in the past. But I was playing out on music, hanging out too much inside of the house, playing my songs. And my brother and my dad came to me, hey, Victor, maybe you should look into and do an activity. I said, but I don't want to do jiu-jitsu. Yeah. I told my dad, just because Braulio does jiu-jitsu doesn't mean I have to do. Yeah. But then I was wandering around finding things to do. But I remember I enjoyed judo, I enjoyed grappling, I was very competitive. But I just didn't know. I was in a city where there's not a lot going on, so you didn't know where you could be. And I was on an age as a teen. Usually, if you want to take on sports, you do it since you're a little child. If you're not in there, so you don't know what exactly you're going to do. So I was just going to school and playing music. That's all I did. And then I said, I'll give it a shot. I love playing sports, so I'll give it a shot. I said, but I'm not doing jiu-jitsu. I was very much like that. And then I tried volleyball, I tried handball, I tried many different sports, and I didn't really didn't feel the community, I didn't feel part of. Yeah. I was not included very easily. And then I said, okay. My brother came back at that time from the Pan American Championships in California. That's when he was the first in my state in Brazil to win that title in all sports. So it was a lot of hype, a lot of and a focus on the idea there was a Pan American champion. And I was like, oh my God, my brother accomplished something so incredible. And then it made me think, and why not? He inspired me then. He inspired me to give it a shot.
What year was that? How long ago
was that?
It was in
2009. It was 1999 that he won the Pan Americans.
Wow.
And that was the year 2000 that I decided to give it a shot.
Amazing.
So that was kind of, I was visiting his tournament. I was going to watch his tournaments. I saw he's doing well. And then I started to get a little bit interested. And then I heard that in the school my brother was training, that there was other teenagers like me too.
Sure.
So then I felt like, okay, it's not only the grown-ups doing it. And,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
and then I went there, okay, teenagers can do it. And I did try it. And then since my first session, I have been coming back to train 2 times a day. It helped to see my brother accomplishing and training hard and see how that looked like.
Sure.
Because when I did my first session, I already did double session per day.
Wow.
I was doing like 4 hours training every day ever since then. That was like pretty straight on.
Yeah.
And then to get here to the UK, it felt like a lifetime when I was in Brazil, but it was only 4 years that I trained in Brazil. I did through my white belt to purple belt. When I just got my purple belt in 2003.
Okay.
December 2003, I got my purple belt.
Wow.
And then that means I was training for just completed almost 4 years. And then I finished high school in Brazil and I was about to go into university. And then, I felt, how about if I go visit my brother for 6 months, learn a little English, travel the world a little bit. I've been in school all my life.
Sure.
Maybe it gave me the chance. And then when I came to here, to the UK, I went to Birmingham straight away.
Yeah, I remember,
And then I was there taking the opportunity that my brother was running the school for me to train and train and train. And then actually, it was the first time I was full-time training.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was training every day as an
Yeah,
athlete, but I
yeah.
never really trained. I didn't know how to train as an athlete.
Sure.
And then I was studying jiu-jitsu. I was on the mat 7 to 8 hours a day minimum. So at that time, that's when I started to really fall in love with jiu-jitsu truly.
Sure.
Because I truly found passion for learning at that time. Because until then, I was doing things. I loved the feeling of doing jiu-jitsu, but I didn't know I didn't understand jiu-jitsu like how smart it is, how calculated you gotta be, how much understanding you gotta develop.
Absolutely.
I was just an implementer, but I started to study, understand, and fell in love with it.
Absolutely. No, that's an awesome journey to get started with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and basically come to the UK and develop yourself as an athlete. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I was explaining you've been an influence in my life, both on and off the mats, but that is your journey on the mats. And then when was it when you decided that this is great, you're enjoying the athletic point of view, you're enjoying competing, which you still do, you enjoy yourself on the mats, but when it's like, okay, I want to now start going into instructing to take those next steps, where did that come from? Because I know there's a lot of athletes out there that just enjoy competing. And that's great, but they're never interested in coaching. And then you were doing both at the same time. And if you don't mind me asking, where did that come from? And what made you have that decision? Man, this is what I'd like to do as well.
That's a great question because we see a lot of people training today and they're really privileged because they have so much knowledge and access.
Absolutely.
But it was not the reality on the beginning, right? When I moved to the UK, there was barely any jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
That was basically my brother in Birmingham, Roger in London, only very like white and early blue belts.
Absolutely.
And then at that time, I moved to the UK. I never taught a class before I moved to the UK.
Yeah.
I never taught a class. So jiu-jitsu was not about teaching for me, it was just about practicing. And so with about falling in love with jiu-jitsu, and when I started to understand, I fell in love with teaching.
Right. Okay.
And I always felt inside my heart, since the early stages, since I never was an outstanding student at school, but every time I understood something and I could help a friend to understand it
better.
It made me feel so great. And I enjoyed to ease the pain of other people's learning processes. But I didn't know what that meant. I enjoyed it, so I did it.
Of course.
But then with jiu-jitsu, I started to realize that I developed an understanding about the particular sport. There was people here not familiar with jiu-jitsu, and I started to be able to ease that pain. And I felt great about that. I felt rewarding. And then, of course, I was encountered with challenges during the process of developing myself here in the UK that I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be a world-class competitor. I want to follow the footsteps of my brother. Yeah. My brother was already a world champion black belt when I was a purple belt.
Yes.
So I had that inspiration. I saw Roger, my friend, being a star, and I was inspired by those guys, and I wanted to achieve my best self as a competitor. more than I wanted to be a teacher or a professor in jiu-jitsu,
Right.
you know? But I realized that the two things came together.
Okay.
I realized that the more I taught, the more I understood. The more I understood, the better my jiu-jitsu was becoming.
So they're both compensating for one
Yeah,
another.
and I believe in my competition career, because I taught so much, I have that was my edge.
Sure.
When a lot of people had to put a lot of thousands of drills of the movement and try to make it automatic, I was basically understanding the movement and then creating under pressure and resilience.
Right.
So my question was always, how can I implement this concept
Yes.
into real situation?
Sure.
And instead of doing drills, I did specific training. I put the challenge on, the live
Okay.
challenge, and then I was trying to figure out how to implement the techniques and concepts under different partners. And even then, I had to help my students become better at jiu-jitsu, so then I can benefit from that training as a training partner.
And that
So I think the level of responsibility that I felt to continue to contribute to my students, and also how can I continue to follow the path of becoming a world-class competitor and the best I can be in the tournaments.
Yes.
I knew that I had to be dedicated 100% to jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
And the teaching is the only way we could earn money to be able to go after our dreams.
True.
There was no sponsorships.
Not back then.
There was no money in competition.
There was no ambassadors program.
No
back then
ambassadors
either.
programs. There was no support to the athlete. You had to
Absolutely.
create your own path. And for me, it was very clear that the path that we needed to create is I'll be the best teacher I can be
Yes.
to add the most value to my students. So then I can be a recognized teacher, professor,
Absolutely.
earn my respect, and then eventually follow the path to eventually own a school one day.
Yeah.
But it was always a future plan to go on that path of
Yes.
owning my own school.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to allow the teaching side to allow me, give me the opportunity to follow my dream.
Makes sense.
And then on the process of following that dream, I encountered many lessons.
Yes.
And those lessons that I've learned today that I take on with me and I try to develop to my students and to the people around me.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great story. Like for people watching at home, what you'll see as jiu-jitsu today, as Brazilian jiu-jitsu today in many schools out there, in a most respectful way. When I first started training at Gracie Barra, Birmingham, that was probably, I'd say, apart from Hodges in London, that was probably one of the only other full-time academies, because before that, jiu-jitsu was taught in halls, in church halls and stuff like that, and it was just like getting a few jigsaw mats together and just training on them. Tapes, yeah. So, and that's pretty much how jiu-jitsu was. So to see the development and the progression of how schools are nowadays is like, wow. And as Professor was explaining there, back then there was no ambassadors programs, sponsorship for jiu-jitsu. We were lucky to even get heaters back then at Gracie Barra, Birmingham. So there was no heating either. So training back then, I'm not saying it was tougher, but it was under different circumstances. So to truly achieve what Professor Bralia, Victor, and all the other professors have achieved back then is remarkable to see. And that's what motivated me personally, and it's great to see, and that's why I want to share the story with you. And then, Professor, where was it when you decided after competing, because you was always competing whilst teaching anyway, but when was it when you were like, right, now's the time, I need to step away from Gracie Barra, Birmingham, not step away, and then go and follow my own dreams of owning my own school?
That's from the very beginning, I've always been the biggest supporter of my brother.
Yep.
I wanted to support him. I want to be he had a good reference for me. You know, I wanted to be a teacher in his academy. I wanted to build up my experience. I wanted to learn jiu-jitsu truly. I never really wanted to go out there and open my own school before I was confident that I can actually continue to develop and grow myself and my students.
Of course.
And once I got to the point already as a black belt, already medaling in the World Championships, I felt like I needed to go for the next thing. I was building a family at that time, and I wanted to build my future. I felt confident because I knew I had enough understanding of jiu-jitsu to drive and study and develop myself. And at the same time, stay close enough to my brother so I can continue to have a good training partner Because at that time, it was already a good like we are training partners.
Yes.
As we both following the same dream, competing in the same tournaments, in the same standards. And of course, probably always senior in his experience, but we were fighting in the same world stage. And I wanted to follow that dream. I wanted to build my own school, which is the dream of every jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Yes, absolutely.
Then I have accomplished that. I began in a little challenging way at that time, opening a school for an immigrant like me, a Brazilian guy who doesn't understand the rules or doesn't have history or financial history.
Sure.
To build a school on my own, it was something like alien. It was like such a, imagine you never build a house, now you have to build a building. That's how I felt like. It was so challenging. And then I had to have a support of a business investor to be able to help me on the process. And that's where the reason why I wanted to follow my dream. I had a support, and I went to another city nearby, which is Nottinghamshire, which is in Mansfield at first.
Yes.
Because I had this opportunity for this investor to help me open my own school.
Of course.
And
Awesome.
that's how everything began.
And then, so one of my, I would say you've got many highlights, but one of my best memories of training at Gracie Barra Nottingham, because not a lot of people know this, but wherever Professor went, I was following. It doesn't matter whereabouts in the country, but I was following. But I remember traveling to Gracie Barra Nottingham when Professor first moved there to start a full-time academy there. I remember it being above. It was on the top floor of where it was the red mats, and we were using.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the time when Professor went to the Europeans. You got your European title, and for me, the reason I find that one area of that story so inspiring is because, again, referring back to what I'm saying, when athletes do it now, they're just doing it and they're focusing purely on their own training, which is what everyone should be doing. But at the time when Professor did it, he was doing it whilst raising a family, whilst trying to run a full-time academy, and also be a full-time professional athlete as well. And you managed to, and you achieved the Europeans back in 2011. That was
the Europeans January 2012.
12, sorry.
Yeah,
January,
but 2011.
Yeah, 2012.
That gap there is the preparation for.
Yeah. So, if you could just share your mindset back then, because like I said, you've got to have a strong mindset to achieve what you achieved back then, and in the process of opening up GB full-time Nottingham as well. And what was your mindset?
Pindi, at that time, coming from where I come from, you know, I come from Brazil, Recife. It's a smaller area, far away from the major cities of the capital cities and the affluent areas of the country. We come from humble backgrounds. You know? We're not really poor kids, but we come from hardship. Sure. Nothing's easy. And I felt, you know, if I left, but I had family. I had people. I had incredible people back home. And if I made the decision to move away from my country, to come to develop a new life, a new journey, and I have to raise my family, for me, I didn't measure the amount of efforts and dedication. And those things were very important to me. I established myself, my future, and also build my family, so I can relate to the place I am. And I do not give up any of those things, because there are key elements for my life. You know, it's the ground I fight for. Is the family I want to support. And when I was in that case in 2011, this is when I had I broke away from investment. From the people who invested on the project, which it was not. Maybe a lot of people have gone through this in life when it doesn't go
smooth sailing.
It doesn't go away. It doesn't go right, and I felt like I was very unjustified, and then I had to follow myself by my own strength. And that meant that I lost everything that I built in the 2 years that I was there. And I had to restart. So in that restart, I went to rent a room into a kickboxing academy with Owen King, an incredible gentleman. He was the helping hand when I lost it all. He didn't charge me for renting his room at first. He let me start, allowed me to get back to my feet so I can continue to afford taking care of my family. And at that time, that period, I was world champion of Ogi already. So I was in great results, but I was in a difficult position.
Of course.
So that motivation to continue to go after my dream, solidify my school without any influences of anybody else, so I can actually direct in the way I wanted to go, which is bringing Gracie Barra to light. And I had challenged to implement that in the past. And then the motivation to build a future for my family, it was like one of the biggest motivation in my heart. And as a fighter, doesn't matter how many times you get hit, you get back and do it again.
Absolutely.
And for me, I know I'm not afraid of challenges, and I know what hard is back in Brazil. I've seen it, and I had this great. I can't even express to you the hard to put in words the willpower that I had at that time. I knew I had an absolute certainty I was gonna make it. There was no question in my mind. No question. I felt free.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And I was under hardship.
Absolutely.
And I dedicated so many hours.
Yeah.
So much training. So much. No people do excuses. It's no excuse. You just get it done.
Get on
put
with
8
it.
hours
Just
a
get on
day,
with
9
it.
hours a day, 10 hours a day. You gotta travel, teach, train, conditioning. You do whatever you do. You get tired, do it again. No matter what. I put the hours. I put the time, and that's when all my best results started to show.
Yeah.
Right? And it was away from all the main centers of training.
Yes.
I wasn't training as often with my brother. I wasn't training with anybody at that time. It's basically very rarely. I was training with my not even black belt students.
Yeah.
Many of them were blue belts. And I had Professor Gazi, who was a brown belt at the time.
Yeah.
And then here I had him to train, only one training partner in the good standards.
Period. Yeah.
But everybody else was just white blues.
Yeah.
And that's the year that evolved the most, the year that I accomplished the most as a competitor. So, and that was the beginning of a revolution in my career, in my life, because I was able to open my own school.
Yes, I remember.
And through my own strength, the building when the situation felt like a building to build, I felt like I had the confidence that I can build.
You can do it. Absolutely.
And then it's done.
Wow, that's an amazing story, Professor. The reason I wanted to ask that question was because for me, from the athlete point of view, from where Professor achieved, as he mentioned, the highest, where he achieved in 2011, 2012, achieved a lot more after that as well. But from in terms of Gracie Barra's point of view, like I saw, me personally, when you opened up your first school in Gracie Barra, Nottingham, and I remember during that time, it was an amazing school, still is. But it was in my opinion, and I might be wrong, but in my opinion, that was like the birth of where Gracie Barra is now. And what I mean by that is that's where I remember experiencing Gracie Barra Nottingham, the first summer camp, where we did like the first summer camp and we were there for the whole week. And it was an amazing time for me back then. And that was in 2012, 2013 era as well. But to see Gracie Barra as a whole, with what you've achieved in Nottingham, and then going from what is Gracie Barra from 2012-13 era to having now a premium school of Gracie Barra and seeing it 2 floors, absolutely amazing. But the beauty of it, and when I keep referring back to having the influences off the mats as well, is you being able to, as you mentioned and referred back to your students who back then were white belts, blue belts, are now professors, and you've given them such huge opportunities, which they've grabbed with both hands to become professors, not move away from Gracie Barra. Gracie Barra, Nottingham is their home, but they've gone over to open up other Gracie Barra schools, achieve multiple achievements throughout their athletic career as well as their school career as well. And it's just, on my point of view, that's where the biggest influence is seeing what you've done for many lives here in the UK, for many other athletes, as well as school owners now. So from your point of view, Professor, how does it feel to see where Gracie Barra has been around since, as we know, many, many years, but to see Gracie Barra now, I believe in that era of 13, 14, 15 was like the birth of where Gracie Barra is now. Do you agree or disagree to that? You pointed very, 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 very well on the timeline. Yeah.
we were at a moment where Gracie Barra was already present here.
Of course, yeah.
From way before that time.
Yeah.
But I believe that is moments of Gracie Barra that was evolving, developing all over the world. Yeah. We were all Gracie Barra members and athletes, but you can be part of the lineage of a Gracie Barra school because you stand for the same jiu-jitsu, but if your school doesn't relate to the school of Marcel Carlos Gracie Jr., that is a gap of who you are part of versus what you represent and what you stand for.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And at that time, there was other Gracie Barra schools. We were all united, but we didn't understand the vision as clear as many students near Marcel Carlos Gracie Jr. at that time. Because we are here in the UK, he was in Brazil, but in 2006, Marcel Carlos Gracie Jr. went to the United States and organized the development of Gracie Barra and structure the opportunity for professors to follow the journey of opening their own schools that can relate as Gracie Barra, that has standards, has processes and programs and methods, which was not yet defined before 2006.
Yes.
They were probably defined by Marcel Carlos Gracie Jr., and he knew what he wanted to accomplish, but he needed to begin fresh in California where he would be able to put into practice all the learnings of his career.
Right.
And then he felt like very frustrated that in many generations before mine, great athletes, great jiu-jitsu practitioners and teachers would have to stop their jiu-jitsu journey to go back into whatever job they needed to do for a living.
Yeah.
So in 2006, this is how Gracie Barra was establishing that. And in 2012, it's like 6 years after.
It's massive.
But it was when many of us were really busy on our careers, with our level of understanding of the mission, it started to happen a little later because we're still building our career. We're still young adults and then becoming more mature adults and also fulfilling that competition career. And we're not focused on how to create the best environment of training. At that time, we were basically trying to teach jiu-jitsu and have great standards to be able to go and compete in the world championships. But then, while I was trying to implement that, I always was watching the schools, and I had a really connection to the team and what Gracie Barra was. And, I'm one of the biggest fan of Gracie Barra. But then when I was maturing as a person, realizing the bigger picture, not just only as an athlete, but also the future of the generations, the legacy continuation.
Yes.
When I understood that element, I started to recognize the importance of connecting even further.
Absolutely.
And then I had influences during the process. I could see in the world of why jiu-jitsu has to be an underground, dingy location that with not level of professionalism. Yeah. If you like to eat in a nice restaurant where things are clean and things are nice, why do you want to train in an uncomfortable, rough, not very clean, organized location? So I realized that we needed to change something. Personally,
of course,
we needed to create a more organized structure, and I wanted to provide to the new students of jiu-jitsu coming in. I experienced that they want to stay. Yeah. Because many people tried to train jiu-jitsu at that time, but didn't stay. Yeah. Because the environment didn't include them. Yep. Many reasons why. Yes. How people receive, the level of training. There's only one standard of training competition, and before there was no GB1 program, GB2 programs that people can ease the way up. There's only one standard. Yes. Because that's all we knew. We were athletes. So then when we started to understand further, and then I went to California, I went to understand. I spent weeks learning the method, the structure, because I wanted to go back to touch to the team that I'm part of, but I felt disconnected because there was no, we were not there.
And there was no togetherness back then.
It was not. I didn't understand. It was communication, technology was not in the same place where we can have a Zoom call.
Not as it is nowadays,
We couldn't get the information. There was no online courses like we have today, the ICP. Everything was presential. You have to be there, but if you're in California, it's hard to be back and forth.
Absolutely.
So I then, at that time, so that many other schools here was trying to also understand, but they had the gap that I'm discussing here. And that's when I went to California trying to study and understand. And then I came back with a mission for Master Carlos and the management team.
Wow.
Victor, you are our reference in the EU. Your first mission as a regional leader, a leader collaborator, is to create your school under 100% implementation of the method and the vision of Gracie Barra and Master Carlos Gracie Jr. and show to everyone that's possible.
Yes.
And then after you're done your first task, your duty is to help others to accomplish the same. And then I am the kind of person who take to heart. I made that my mission. So since day one, I was no longer teaching my students only Jiu-Jitsu. I was teaching my students to become like great professors who are selfless, who wanted to continue to share, and empowering them to develop what I have been developing.
And understand the vision.
And it was at that time, it was a little bit counter to what actually was going on. There was a lot of concerns of territories. People didn't want to share. People didn't want to have another school near them. They wanted their students to be their servant. The martial arts created that, especially Jiu-Jitsu, had that dominance of the black belt, needs to have all the students help them out. And they could not go and follow their dreams. They had to be doing everything under the professors. And I felt very uncomfortable with that because I always put myself on the other person's shoes. If I would like to grow myself as a professor and achieve things myself, if I could only do under the supervision of that particular person or under them or with them somehow, I would be limited to my dreams and what I want to accomplish. And then I understood, I clicked to what Gracie Barra's mission is to be able to help others to have what we have. Is to be able to give you the opportunity to live this incredible lifestyle that I have been benefiting from. Why, if we have something so great, why keep only for yourself?
Spread.
And that goes in line with the values of Gracie Barra have been standing for, which I was then understanding the whys. Number one, brotherhood. Brotherhood represents the first value. The value represented Gracie Barra in the very beginning. Organized like a team, fighting like a family. That was our slogan. The first slogan. And that represents the unity. We are brothers. We support our sisters. We are here standing together
as a team.
As a team. And we build a strong family field. That means we can go out there and do something great.
Absolutely.
And then we go to the second value, integrity. We need to keep the integrity of the art. Our old masters, the recognition, what they have done for us to be where we are. Right? The Jiu-Jitsu, they had to evolve from that time that got us where we are today.
Absolutely.
Our master as well, Master Carlos Gracie Jr., he has done his work. So today, I am here teaching Jiu-Jitsu because he laid the field for us to do. So that has a unity. We were Gracie Barra. And if we forget the beginnings, if we don't relate to what we were from, we are just creating a broken legacy.
Absolutely.
So the legacy value, the integrity connects to keeping the legacy alive, which is the second slogan of Gracie Barra. And then that's when we unified the team, when everybody understood then that we are one team, one shield. There's no Victor Estima BJJ. There is no Braulio Estima BJJ, Lagarto BJJ.
It's all one.
We are all Gracie Barra, and Lagarto, Victor, Braulio, Romulo Barral, Master Carlos, Flavio Almeida. We are all Gracie Barra, and therefore we are stronger.
Absolutely.
And then we go to the third value, right, which is development. If we have something great, we got to share it and helping people develop through it. And what better way to say Jiu-Jitsu for everyone? So if you have all those elements, we are all over the world, we have one team. Now, let's bring it to everyone. And a lot of people misunderstand Jiu-Jitsu for everyone.
Of course.
Right? Because it's if you put the word on its own and just leave it at that, it can have many meanings.
Sure.
But what Gracie Barra really stands on Jiu-Jitsu for everyone is, once Jiu-Jitsu was only for the strong. Jiu-Jitsu is only for the fighter, the competitor.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that began Jiu-Jitsu could not stay in Jiu-Jitsu because there was nothing suited for them.
Yeah.
If you're a kid, you would never bring your kid to train in an environment that's only
where they're only going to be competing.
Or just adults, or just men,
Yes.
and people who just want to go there for a brawl.
Absolutely.
You want to be able to teach your kid to become a better human being.
Absolutely. Development.
You want to develop your kids to be, polite, confident, know how to protect themselves. And we couldn't give it a chance for kids or women who felt like the environment is not for them, only for the strong people, because women or smaller men will struggle to get into the environment.
Yeah.
And if you're older, if you're no longer in your physical shape, your athletic shape, or maybe you were slightly overweight or more overweight, you want to make a change in your life. You love Jiu-Jitsu, but you could not benefit from it because you would not be able to stand in that environment.
Absolutely.
So what Jiu-Jitsu for Everyone mission is that everyone has a room in a Gracie Barra school.
Yes.
Because we have methods, structure, programs that speaks what we say.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's what Jiu-Jitsu for Everyone is. And now we have done this, because if you look to all schools who implement that, and Gracie Barra is not the only one.
Yeah.
We are definitely leading that.
Yes, 100% I agree.
We are definitely leading, but we're not the only one. There's other schools doing that. And many of schools are doing that. Many others, because of the influences Gracie Barra has put out there as well, which I'm super proud of.
Yeah.
So in 2012 was the beginning of the leadership creation in the UK.
Yeah.
After the results of many years, only in 2016, 17, people could fully see the results of the hard work being put since 2012.
Absolutely.
My school accomplished that.
I was going to say, because for me, from the outside point of view, looking in, I could see little segments of coming in, but it wasn't until January of 2018 when Professor opened the premium Gracie Barra Nottingham, and I was like, wow. That's where, for me, that was like a wow. Like, I had to take a step back and actually see everything, and it was like, wow, that's an amazing achievement. And that was kind of like, I wouldn't say a wake-up call, but that was when I realized, hang on, you in January 2018, you've opened up a premium school, you've got 2 floor stories, you've got your whole GB1 program, GB2, even though, yes, you was doing it before, but for me, that's where I felt like,
it made it visual, isn't it?
It made it reality. Yeah, it made it visual, it made it reality, and that's where I started seeing multiple Gracie Barra schools. You led the way, basically, and it's so beautiful to see now here in the UK and Europe and all over the world. But it's great to see now all the Gracie Barra schools implementing the same vision, the same mindset.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, and the philosophy of Jiu-Jitsu for everyone. The beauty for me. Just like Professor did, we started training from I wouldn't say selfless point of view, but it was to compete, to only compete.
Ourselves.
Yeah, to prove ourselves. But now, seeing it where Jiu-Jitsu for everyone is, and I love that implementation, I love that side of it, because you could see now women coming in, you could see children coming in. You've got the Barra Fit program, where you've got a mix of levels coming in, where it's purely a fitness program, but implementing Jiu-Jitsu techniques as well. Is great to seeing children develop and become better human beings through Jiu-Jitsu. It's so good to see, and Professor referenced the point before this in other arts and before this vision, it was seen to a black belt, angry, quite, sturdy, and there wasn't ever a development program there. Whereas now I truly believe, and you can see because the reality is there, that the development is there. You've got the Barra Fit program, you've got the GB1 program, 2 program, the Black Belt program. There's many programs now of self-development. If you want to go down the athletic point of view as well, and you want to compete, the one thing I absolutely love, the opportunities that now Gracie Barra are providing for the young athletes and senior athletes out there with the ambassadors program. And again, just touching on to what we were saying earlier, it wasn't that easy back when Professor was doing it, but now it's available, and that's down to, and I'm not trying to give you, a big head here, but that's down to you going, flying out to California, making that sacrifice, seeing what the vision needs to be, coming over to the UK, implementing it, making it reality, and now look where Gracie Barra stands.
It's amazing. I personally, I feel that I have contributed, but other people have contributed too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it this special.
Yeah.
It's not about Victor.
No.
Victor
No.
is believed in the mission
Yes.
that includes everyone. And I probably was the first in the UK to perhaps go thoroughly, implement
Yes.
100%,
Yeah.
no questions asked, believe in the mission, and with the best interest of all the people around,
Yes.
to kind of help them to see the good things that I was able to see.
Absolutely.
And then what we saw is just I was following the leadership.
Yeah.
I had leaders guiding me,
Yeah.
and I would just believe in them, and we created something special, because it was never meant to be for Victor or for one particular person.
Absolutely.
It was meant to be
A family, a
for
team.
everyone.
Yep.
And I truly thought that there's no way we can create something incredible only doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to create, in order to create something incredible, you gotta add value, you gotta contribute, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And this is what I feel that I'm proud of. I feel like my contribution was that.
Yes.
I came in, I made the hard work of figuring it out,
Yep.
and then I tried to make it real.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
all I feel like my credit was, to state it's possible,
Yes.
it's done, now let's do it together.
Absolutely.
There's no questions asked
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
We
yeah.
cannot, because it's very hard for many people to believe in something they've never seen.
Yeah.
So it's the Bannister effect.
Yes.
When he managed to run at
Yeah.
so many kilometers in such a short time, and then he made it when nobody ever did it before.
Yeah.
But after he did it,
Ev-
so many people
Yeah,
did it.
yeah, yeah.
So why is
Yeah,
that? There
yeah,
was
yeah.
people able to do it, but
Yeah.
now it became possible.
Because it's reality.
People
saw
believe
it.
it's real.
Yeah.
So now I felt like this. I felt the reality in different countries,
Yes.
and I wanted to create that in the UK, but I was encountering challenges and resistance,
Yeah.
because people didn't feel like it was possible doing here. In the past, to have a nice academy, it was an impossible thing.
Absolutely.
And you see somebody with a nice academy, you know it's possible, and you go after that.
Yes. 100%.
So I felt like I was just breaking the ice
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. 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 It's true. It's true. It's very,
And then
very true.
once we prove with one good result, and then we help others to achieve the same, and it becomes real.
Yeah.
And the people can no longer question, because it's the right things. We're doing it with the right reasons
Yeah.
for good. And when you're doing purely because it's something great, it's good for everyone, there's no way it's not going to grow and develop.
Absolutely.
When it's a lie, though, when it's questionable, the reasons behind the leaders, why people do what they do,
Yep.
it cannot sustain.
True.
Because you can only be that, it has to be your life.
Absolutely.
And that's what I made. And when I made the transition, I made this my life. When I retire from competition, I realized
You're doing
that there is a future for the rest of my life to
Yeah.
continue to live this incredible lifestyle, but not only doing it
pass
for
on.
me, but doing
Yeah.
helping others and facilitating for others.
Yes.
Selflessly.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the best way.
You know,
That's the beauty
truly.
of it. And can I just add on to that point there? If there's any athletes watching, any professional fighters, whether it's in mixed martial arts, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, a lot of fear comes from from a fighter's point of view. A lot of fear is when that day comes where you need to hang up the gloves or you need to hang up and it's retired. And after that, we've seen it in the past with many of the fighters out there that they don't know what to do with themselves after. And I know I keep going on about it, but that's the beauty of Gracie Barra, and that's the beauty of what Professor Victor is saying right there, is the fact after he finished competing, after the retirement side of the stopping the competing, shall I say, there's still an opportunity there. There's still more to do, and it's proven, reality right there. Look at everything he's achieved after competition, and there's still more to come. So
it's incredible what you
Yeah.
just said, guys. If just to continue on this topic, because I think I have gone through
Yeah.
the mindset of finding my new identity,
yes,
because that's what actually happens when you are a competitor and you're follow your dream to prove yourself in the tournaments. you're looking into what you want to achieve, and that goal becomes something incredible that you want to achieve. But if you achieve it or if you don't achieve it, either way, you're going to get to a point that you can no longer perform to the same standards. And if you only define yourself as your ability to fulfill that standard or that hunt, and that's the emptiness that we struggle. And there's a lot of people find struggles like depression when they're coming out and they are not in the same standard. They feel like they can't meet the next step. They feel like they lost. And this is when I always try to tell my students when they're going through now, I said, remember, you're not just competing to win a title. You are competing to express your full potential in this particular element in your life. You are building discipline, hard working. You have to come back again when it's hard. You have to know what you want. You cannot put excuses, put the work on, and you will get results. And you get performance. And whenever you no longer can perform, what you're going to take away from that life is not your medals, because the medals is done, you cannot achieve it again. But what you can keep is, you can keep all the lessons that you've learned on continue to go on that path to self-mastery, to become the best you can be. And that is the biggest asset. If you ask me today, what's your biggest achievement as a competitor, and I'll tell you, the lessons I've learned to keep going no matter what, to know how to face a challenge, to have the confidence that I can do it even though it's hard. You know, all the elements that I learned, that's what I apply today in my regular life, in my relationships with my family, you know, with the friends, you know, being honest, you know, honest, hard work, no excuse, do it again. When it's a challenge, come back again. Don't shy down, feel comfortable under pressure. You know, all those things are the things that I live by, and that's what I do every day in my life, even when I cannot physically perform to the standards I once did. So that's the truth elements, you know, and that's where I try to have it, pass it on, share it, because that's our duty.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely, 100%. Well, ladies and gents, I could be here, and I'm sure you could agree, we could be here for hours and hours and hours listening to Professor Victor's stories, okay? But unfortunately, we have to end it there. Just before we do, though, ladies and gents, if you want to follow Professor on his social media platforms, Professor, if you just want to let the audience know how to follow you.
Yes, so you can follow us on my personal Instagram, Victor Estima GB. And of course, there's our schools, Gracie Barra Nottingham, at Gracie Barra Nottingham on Instagram, and Gracie Barra is all over Instagram. You can find it. This is what we're developing. You can join us there.
Amazing. So listen, ladies and gents, I hope you all enjoyed that one today. We're going to be looking forward to welcoming Professor Victor back here for another podcast later on in the year. Hopefully one day here for a seminar, which we'll be also arranging here in Coventry as well. So keep an eye out on that on our social media platforms, ladies and gents. Hope you enjoyed that. And Professor Sava, if you're watching, I promise you next time I will comb my hair. I promise you. All right. Thank you very much, guys.